We are back. A Premier League that is on match day 34. Premier League that just created more drama, more suspense, making this league more tight, making this league the focal point in the world of football. But a Premier League that started on Tuesday, a Premier League that was played during the week, a Premier League that had some games on match day 34 played before the weekend. And we saw, as we know, on match day 34 that started match day 34 that was played during the week. We see a Brighton that won us against a Chelsea 3-0. We saw a Burnley that lost at home against Manchester City 1-0. And we saw a Bournemouth Leeds that went tied 2-2. But that's part of match day 34. And we have the rest of match day 34 that is 7 games. Welcome back again. And for those that don't know, para esos que no saben, esto es Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer, Football Honestly. And match day 34 of the Premier League has taken place. Premier League match day 34 that resumed Monday. And Manchester City moved the move to the top of the table after match day 34 followed a crucial 1-0 away win against Burnley, and an Arsenal that lost to City in the previous round. But Arsenal remained in the title race by bouncing back with a 1-0 win over Newcastle to go first place again, while Liverpool secured 4th place after 3-1 victory against Crystal Palace. At the other end of the table, Nottingham Forest boosted their survival hopes with a dominant 5-0 over Sunderland, leaving Wolves at the bottom and definitely facing relegation. But we're going to start with this Premier League that is on match day 34. We had 3 games played during the week, and then the rest of the games resumed on the weekend. And Monday, Manchester United resumed the match day 34 to close the match day 34 date. But this Premier League started with a Brighton against a Chelsea. A Brighton that won at home 3-0 against Chelsea. Brighton delivered a ruthless tactical masterclass that effectively ended Chelsea's hope for a late season European surge. The Seagulls dominated from the first whistle, with Danny Welbeck continuing his remarkable scoring record against his former rivals, and Kadioglu putting a tireless all-action performance. This humiliating defeat proved to be a final straw for the Blues, for Chelsea and the board, resulting in the immediate sacking of head coach Liam Resonor following a dismissal winless run. A Chelsea that dropped to 8th place, a Chelsea that has 5 losses and no goals scored in those games. The European hopes on a lifeline, because this Chelsea has no manager, no game plan, 8th place, no goal scored in the last 5 games. It's looking really, really bad for Chelsea. It's like a dark cloud is over Chelsea. But Chelsea is the prime example of what not to do with a football club that has all the resources. And at the same time, a club that was in a meaningful trajectory and it has been punished for its greed and for an ambition of wanting more talent and not analyzing and working with the talent and players they had 4-5 years back. A new board came in. They wanted to do things a certain way. Chelsea put too much money on different young talent, not using it, not exploiting it the right way, not working with it. They found themselves with too many players. They found themselves not having a steady project. They found themselves firing that manager that was working with the club. They find themselves getting a new manager who only lasted 2 months. 107 days for Leon Resonor. A manager that was having a great run before he came to Chelsea. And of course, you're not going to turn down a job like Chelsea. There's more problems than just management. There's problems in the squad of having too many players. There's a problem with how the organization is being ran by the board. And the fans see and get mad. They protest because this Chelsea won a Champions League just 4 or 5 years back. This Chelsea wins the Club World Cup just last summer. Now they see themselves stunned, shocked. They purchased Garnacho. Now they don't want him. They have too many options of players. Too many options. The bench, the reserves, just too much. When you have too much of something, it loses value. It loses value. And Chelsea is the prime example of what not to do when you are a big club that has all the resources. Now, Chelsea, yes, they're still in the Prem. But from what they were 4 or 5 years back to where they are right now, greed and ambition has taken over this Chelsea. Now they see themselves on a lifeline for their European spots. Then after that, we have a Burnley against a Manchester City. A Manchester City that wins as visitors by the minimum. 1-0. Manchester City survive a bruising high-pressure encounter at Turf Moor to reclaim their spot at the summit of the table. Though the victory was far from pretty, a solitary goal was enough to secure 3 vital points. And showcasing an extraordinary focus, Pep Guardiola has instilled in his squad during his this intense title run-in. With City now sitting top with the same points as Arsenal, having played one less game, the pressure is squarely on the Gunners to respond in their upcoming fixture on the weekend. This game looked like the game where Manchester City could have taken the advantage for the goal difference. But this only enhances the competition and adds more fuel to the fight for the title and gives more drama. Who does not love drama? Who doesn't love drama when it comes to sports? Who doesn't? Chelsea are top. Apologies. Manchester United is top of the table. Goals for 66. Goals against 29 and goal difference 37. Goals for Arsenal 63. Goals against Arsenal 26. Goal difference for Arsenal 37. Points all the same. Games played all the same. But Man City technically still has a game on hand. Pressure on who? Arsenal. If Arsenal does not win the Premier, Arteta will see himself going. He has been in this Arsenal for a while. He has gotten the players he has asked for, but it feels and looks like this Arsenal is coming short for this Premier League. And in the Champions League, they do not convince me. They don't convince me either in the Premier. They only win games by 1 or 2 goals. Is it 3-2? Is it 2-1? Is it 1-0? It's never a 4-1, a 3-0, a 5-2, a 5-1. They only have won 5 to 6 games by more than 3 goals. They move the ball around. They are steady defending, but they don't show a aggressive attack or a dynamic attack or a constant spark. They don't show that. They play football, but they play within certain means of controlling the game, seeking for opportunities, but not being consistent on creating those opportunities. But Manchester City is most likely to walk away with this title because pressure is not on them. Pressure is on Arsenal, who was 200 days plus. Bournemouth against Leeds, a game that ended 2-2. In a match that swung wildly on the pendulum of momentum, Leeds United snatched a point from a jaws of defeat thanks to a dramatic 97th minute equalizer from Sean Longstaff. Bournemouth had looked comfortable after goals from Eli Junior Krupi and Ryan gave them the lead, but a chaotic second half saw them lose focus and concede a heartbreaking late draw. This result keeps Leeds hovering dangerously near the drop zone, but provides a massive emotional boost heading into their final stretch of games. A Bournemouth that is in the 7th place and a Leeds that is in the 15th place. Sunderland against a Nottingham Forest. A Sunderland that lost at home by 5 against Nottingham Forest. The match was effectively decided in a clinical first half where Forest scored 4 times in just 20 minutes. An own goal from Try Human opened the scoring in the 70th minute, followed by strikes from Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White, and Igor Jesus, while Sunderland improved in the second half and had a goal disallowed by VAR, a foul on goalkeeper Matt Sells. Elliot Anderson added a 5th in stoppage time and completed the run out. A game that, yes, it starts with an own goal, but then you have 4 other goals that come from Forest Ham players. A Sunderland struggle that, despite entering the game with European ambitions, the Black Cats suffered their heaviest home defeat of the season, conceding 4 goals in a single half for the first time 2025 season 2026. And Morgan Gibbs-White continued his stellar form, following up a hat-trick in the previous week with another goal and assist this match day week. A Sunderland that is in the 12th place and a Nottingham Forest that is in the 16th place, being able to secure their stay in the Premier League. With Fulham against Aston Villa. A Fulham that won at home by the minimum 1-0. Ryan Sessegno clinical 43rd minute strike acted as a hammer blow to Aston Villa's European ambition and tactical chess match at Craven Cottage. Fulham dominated the shot count, with 13-10, and yet a masterclass in defensive organization from Joachim Andersen restricted them to just a single effort on target. This result sees Villa slip into a nervous 3-way tie. Now you could say 2 because Manchester United comes out of a 3-way tie. And Aston Villa slips into that 2-way tie. And tie for, that 4th place, you could say. Leaving Unai Emery with significant questions before their next high-stakes outing. Fulham that is in 10th place, and Villa that goes 5th. But after that, we have a Liverpool who's involved in that two-way tie. But Liverpool win their game against Crystal Palace, a Liverpool that played at Anfield and won 3-1. Liverpool refused to yield in the top four scrap, leaning on the sheer creative spark of Florian Wirtz to dismantle and organize Crystal Palace, with Alexander Isak getting his first goal after a while in injuries, as we all know. Despite Daniel Munoz threatening the second half comeback for the Eagles, the Reds' attacking efficiency ensured they stay level in the 58-point logjam for the final Champions League spots. And Anfield remains a fortress, but the margin of errors has effectively vanished for a side that still has eyes on the podium finish. And Liverpool is in the 4th place and Crystal Palace in the 13th place. And as we know, in this game, Mohamed Salah limped off against Crystal Palace with a hamstring injury, with only 4 games left in the final season at Anfield. And serious fears because his Liverpool career could be over if the tear is severe. And it will be sad, let's be honest. It would be sad to see a legend not being able to finish the season with his current club, a legend of Liverpool, a legend of the history books in this English Premier League. But it would be devastating for the Liverpool fans that have been with Liverpool and seeing Mo Salah being a major part of a lot of the achievements that this Liverpool has seen in the past few years with Mo Salah, because Mo Salah is a difference maker and is a legend for Liverpool. But he gets hurt this game and he comes out. And we are witnessing one of the most congested races for the Champions League in the Premier League history, with Liverpool and Aston Villa, and Manchester United was part of that, but they won their game, so they get out of that congested race. But Liverpool and Aston Villa both are sitting at 58 points. And the theme is squad depth and fatigue. How will this play out in the long run for clubs like Liverpool and Aston Villa that are trying to get themselves in Champions League spots? And it's the end of the season. We are seeing across a lot of European leagues injuries. Young players that are in their mid-20s, early 20s coming down with injuries. This is the product and the result of some teams playing games every 2 in the most 3 days in between games. So is it really contradicting topic? Yes. At the beginning of the season, I touched it very briefly and just said this is not gonna end well. This is not gonna help. It has been 3 to 4 years where we see new competitions or competitions changing their format, and this brings in more games. So as we know, in the international level in Europe, we had the Euros, but then the Nations League comes in play. That has added more games. And at the same time, we see a Champions League that changes format. So that adds more games. We're talking about teams that have 3 to 4 domestic titles to fight for. And on top of that, they have international duty. And then on top of that, some of this international duty has been extended due to new tournaments. And then on top of that, you have players that at the club level are playing in the Champions League with their club, and the club sees themselves playing more games because the Champions League that has changed format. So it's not only a Champions League or a Nations League changing and a Nations League coming in, it's the creation of new tournaments and the arrangement of format changing in some tournaments that adds more games to the players, to the squads. So yes, the squad depth and fatigue will definitely be a theme and topic to talk about, to see how teams like Liverpool and Aston Villa can compete to get into those Champions League spots. But Villa's slip up against Fulham suggests that Unai Emery's thin squad might be hitting the wall. A Aston Villa that has been a little bit questioned in the middle of the season, seeing a lot of injuries, seeing a lot of players missing to muscle injuries more mostly than anything, and then you have injuries that take you out for the rest of the season. Anything that is joints, ankles, knees, that usually just puts you out for the rest of the season. It is a really hard thing to come back from, but this happens due to the amount of games that competitions have put in at the professional level. Liverpool's reliance on Florian Wirtz has become a double-edged sword at the same time for this Liverpool that wins against Crystal Palace 3-1. While he is providing the magic, the Reds look vulnerable whenever he's marked out of the game. So what does that mean? Florian Wirtz, that when he is in the game, they rely on him. And when the opponent is marking him, Liverpool have no outlet to play through. So that shows that they rely a lot on him. And if Florian Wirtz, that yes, at the beginning of the season was having a really hard time. Yes, his price was being questioned for how much they got him. But as the season went, he started, taking a little bit more warmth to the Premier League. But it's a player that they rely on. And when he's not available because he's being marked well, you see that Liverpool doesn't have that outlet through him, and is a player that had to adapt his game to the Premier League, because every league is different. Yes, at the end of the day, it's all football, but it's football that, depending on what league you are, is played at a different rhythm with a different technique. But we see that Liverpool does rely a lot on Wirtz. It's not bad, but Wirtz is gonna have to change his game to be more efficient, more effective, and cause less errors in the field to have a neutral or a flow state for Liverpool when they need him and when they are relying on him in the field. But moving on, we see a West Ham against a Everton, a West Ham that wins at home against Everton 2-1. Callum Wilson emerged as the savior of the London Stadium, netting a 92nd minute winner that could prove to be most valuable goal in West Ham's modern history. After Kieran Dewsbury Hall late equalizer threatened to keep the Hammers in the bottom three, Wilson's predatory finish secured 3 points that put them 2 clear of the relegation zone. Everton will feel aggravated after a spirit display, but they remain previously close to the drop in the 11th place, failing to kill the game when they had the chance. A West Ham that is in the 17th place and an Everton that is in the 11th place. Then we move on to a Wolves against a Tottenham that wins as visitors 1-0. The trap door finally opened for Wolves as Joao Palhinha late strike confirmed their relegation to the Championship following a season of offensive futility. Spurs' first win since December was far from aesthetic, but it provides a desperate lifeline for a side that look destined to join Wolves in the second tier Championship football. For the host, a league worst minus 38 goal differential tells the story of a campaign where they simply couldn't find quality required to compete. Wolves in the 20th place in the last place, and Tottenham is in the 18th place. Tottenham saw themselves out of relegation zone just for a few minutes when Everton was tied with West Ham. But in the end, they stay 18th place. It will come down on watching and relying on the neighbors in the table to see if the member of the Big Six stays or goes to championship football. And at the same time, Spurs that confirmed that Xavi Simons ruptured his ACL during their 1-0 win over Wolves. He is scheduled for surgery and will miss the remainder of the season and likely start of the next season. This means no World Cup for another bowler out there. We are seeing this very, very often. A lot of great players, a lot of players that are in their early 20s, mid 20s, are coming down with a lot of injuries. And that is a question to ask why, a question to analyze. But if the players don't speak up and the players don't get together and agree that yes, there is too many games and the teams don't back their players up, then guess what? Organizations will keep pushing on making these players play more. Football takes a lot on your physical part of the body, on the physical part of the body, on your joints, on your ankles, your legs, from your hips down. Football takes a lot. Practicing every day, playing every 2 days, that will do. Yes, players do follow a very strict diet. Yes, players do follow a very strict schedule to take care and rehabilitate every day to keep themselves at the highest level they can. But it's inevitable. It's inevitable when you are constantly playing high intensity games. And on top of that, at practice, intensity is also required of you because you have to compete with your teammates for your spot. That's what professional football is all about. And yes, you see these players that they are picking up injuries. Some of them sadly picked them up at the beginning of the season, mid-season. But an injury is an injury. It's a sad perspective and a sad situation that a player has to go through. But in reality, when you don't see an injury at the beginning or mid-season, you feel like you are in tune, you feel like you are well, you feel like you are prepared. But then when the injuries come at the end of the season and around the corner you have a World Cup, which is a very, very common dream of a lot of professional players, it hits you differently. But all you have is to get up and keep pushing. And that's all you can do as a professional player, whether the World Cup is around the corner or the World Cup is the next year. The best you can do is just get up and keep pushing. And speedy recovery to Xavi Simons, a great bowler that we have not been able to see him at full spectrum. This guy, if he finds a team, if he finds a squad where he can fit in and play his best football, a lot of fans will be falling in love with his game. But moving on, we see an Arsenal against a Newcastle, an Arsenal that secures a win at home by the minimum. Arsenal proved that they have the stomach for the title fighting by grinding out a gritty defensive masterclass that keeps them 3 points clear at the summit at the moment. Mikel Arteta's men rely on a backline that has conceded a league low of 26 goals to silence a Newcastle side that looked strangely toothless again under the Emirates lights. While the victory was narrow, it maintains the pressure on Manchester City and keeps the Gunners' dream of the first title since 2004 very much alive. Arsenal is in the first place and Newcastle is in the 14th place. Arsenal beat Newcastle, but at a cost. Kai Havertz was withdrawn early with a suspect injury. Eberechi Eze also caused a scare after being forced off in the 53rd minute, though he later clarified it was just purely precautionary. Eberechi Eze scored a stunning long-range goal from a corner routine cementing his reputation as the league's most dangerous shooter from the outside the box. 10 goals from distance since 2022. Eberechi is a precise shooter with a lot of power. And Arsenal's defensive record is now the best in the league by a 4-goal margin. Arsenal, they can definitely compete, but it is this type of games that show that Arsenal are often just scraping by. Yes, sometimes they show dominance on the possession. Yes, they show sometimes dominance on shots that might not necessarily be on target, but they don't show a steady offensive dominance across all games. Sometimes you have to take the chances you have. Make sure that you take advantage of those chances, because yes, Arsenal could have dominated the game. Yes, Arsenal could have had more possession. In one sense, do I mean that they could have dominated the game? Possession, shots, defending. But all it takes is Newcastle to have one opportunity out of the blue to just tie this game, take that chance, and leave Arsenal feeling the pressure. So yes, pressure is on Manchester City because Arsenal wins and goes tops again. But in reality, the pressure is not on Manchester City. Manchester City were trailing the whole time, second place, following all time, the whole time, second place. Manchester City comes and plays against Arsenal, wins, holds Arsenal back, then wins against Burnley, goes first. Arsenal comes and plays on the weekend, wins against Newcastle, goes first. But when Man City was first, Man City still had an extra game on hand. Arsenal plays, they win. Guess what? Manchester City still have a game on hand that is extra, game they have not played. So pressure could be said to be shifting, but pressure is definitely on Arsenal because Manchester City have an extra game on hand. Whoever scripted this Premier League, if there is such thing, did a great job if you ask me. Because you have a Arsenal that have been first almost the whole season. Then in the last you could say 6 games of this Premier League, Manchester City goes first on one match day, then drops again to second, and Manchester City still has a game on hand. And then at the bottom of the table, you have Tottenham, who is watching, making sure that whoever is above them loses and doesn't win, so that way they could go 17th place. A Tottenham that was in 17th place just for a few minutes because Everton ends up losing against West Ham. A West Ham that is in the 17th place. So there's a lot of drama in this Premier League. Plenty of drama to look at, to analyze, to write about, to discuss, whether it is just one club or players, or whether it's the whole league and just clubs. There is a lot of drama to discuss in this Premier League. But moving on to the last game of this Premier League match day 34, we have a Manchester United that wins at home at Old Trafford 2-1 against Brentford. A bolster drive for Champions League qualification, moving 11 points clear from 6th place. Veteran midfielder Casemiro opened the scoring with his 9th goal of the season before Benjamin Sesko doubled the lead with his 10th Premier League goal of the season. Both assisted by Bruno Fernandes, who moved within one of the all-time single assist record. Despite a late 87th minute consolation goal of Matthias Jensen, interim manager Michael Carrick guided the Red Devils to their 17th win of the campaign, maintaining a perfect Premier League home record against the Bees, and Man United that solidifies their third place, and Brentford is in the ninth place. Man United that only needs is athleticism in the midfield to have better pressure and make other teams feel that pressure. At the moment, their football is effective, but struggles when defending and that center midfield. But this brings the question of who can fit in that Man United gap after Casemiro leaves. Casemiro scores, defends, does the dirty work. So it's going to be a player that can fit all those boxes, or we're going to see a player that will come in next season, do a great job, but we'll see a Man United having certain type of struggles and due to some big shoes that they have to fill in. But who can assure that whoever's going to replace Casemiro is going to fit in those shoes? And there's many names that can be possible for replacement, but who can assure that that specific player that will come in is going to fill the duty that has to be done? And by what I've seen and by following this Manchester United, their game, where they were, where they are now, who's in charge, I would say Carrick is the man for this Man United, who in the past have been used to a Man United that in the past have been used to having European football as an expectation, to play in the Champions League, in the Europa League. But that expectation has disappeared in the last few years. It's not expected of them, not with the same demand, you could say. Yes, it's expected of them because they are a big club, but not with that demand that it should be, because Man United is one of the top clubs, big clubs known in Europe. So there's a difference of demand when you are a club like Manchester United. But it is an expectation that, yes, it has come down a little bit, but I believe Carrick brings this back, solidifying their spot for European football and bringing a club like Man United back into European football. And it seems like Carrick will bring back that expectation. Why? Because he knows what it is to be in a club where a manager like Fergie wants you to do the best you can and to provide the best football you can to help a club like Manchester United if you play for them. But that's all for this match day 34 of the Premier League. And another topic that is coming on now that we are reaching the final stretch of this Premier League is the PFA players, the players player of the year. Has a few players to put in as contenders. Yes, of course, there's great talent. There's players that are putting numbers. There's players that are making difference. But to me, the first that come to mind when it comes to the players player of the year is Bruno Fernandes. And they're not in a specific order. But Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Declan Rice, Erling Haaland, Igor Thiago, Antonio Semedo, David Raya, Gabriel Magalhaes, Ryan Cherky, Eberechi Eze. Those are some of the players that at the top of my head are worthy of being looked at and being judged depending on the criteria that they use, of course. But to me, there's only 5 actual contenders. And these players are contenders for a reason. But the contenders are based on their contribution and their teams, their impact on their team during the season and where they stand now, and from where they started to where they stand now. But for me, those players are Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Erling Haaland, Declan Rice, and Igor Thiago. Each of these players has shaped the outcome for their respective clubs in a certain way, from where they started in the season to where they are now. There is, of course, a progress. There is a story, a history that has been written, how effective they have been, how they have contributed, how they have changed the outcome for the team. So those specific five players, they definitely can be played in the different, you know, if you really want to number them from, 1 through 5, top to the least. Um, you can definitely put them in order. Um, but yes, those are five players that I think they are worthy of being top five and looked at to see if they meet the criteria for this PFA award. But if it come down to just three, I would say Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, and Erling Haaland. Igor Thiago definitely deserves because he has made history and he has made a huge impact for Brentford, being their top scorer and literally trailing Erling Haaland by 2 or 3 goals. So it's something great for Brentford, something great for Igor. But if it came down to three players, I would say Bruno, Bernardo, and Erling. Those will be the three players to look at and see if they are worthy to win this award. But this Premier League match day 34 saw Arsenal reclaim the top spot with 73 points after a 1-0 victory against Newcastle United, while Manchester City remains close behind with 70 points and a game in hand. Liverpool moved into the top 4 with a 3-1 win over Crystal Palace, tied on 58 points with Aston Villa, and Manchester United is in a tie race for Champions League qualification, but they get away from 4th and 5th place, this Manchester United. And then we have a Nottingham Forest that significantly boosted their survival hopes by defeating and delivering a 5-0 win, trashing Sunderland, um, moving them 5 points clear of the relegation zone. Tottenham Hotspur secure a narrow 1-0 away win at Wolves, leaving the home side at the bottom of the table and confirmed for relegation. Additionally, Manchester United ended the match week with a 2-1 victory over Brentford at Old Trafford, featuring goals from Casemiro and Benjamin Sesko. That's all for today. Eso es todo por hoy. That's all for the Premier League. That just keeps having more drama, and even if there's scripts or no scripts about this league, it's just more drama. We have drama at the top of the league between Manchester City and Arsenal, and then we have drama at the bottom of the league with Tottenham seeing if they can come out of that relegation zone, and with West Ham just giving advantage to Tottenham to go 17th place just for a few minutes because they were tied against Everton, but then West Ham ends up winning. But there's total drama this match day 34 in the Prem. Thank you for all of those that are always here. Thank you for all of those that always watch the video. And for those that don't know, para esos que no saben, esto es Pase Ambidiestro, Ambidextrous Pass, Fútbol Honestamente, Soccer, Football Honestly. If you like the content, please leave a like and follow. And that's all for today.